opens up your heart and you're able to receive the message. And you're able to change, fast forward change. But if you leave HaShem, next time is not so much fun. The next time is usually after HaShem smacks you in the face a few times. It's after you lose. It's after you suffer. It's after pain. It's after agony. It's after you realize, how can I leave HaShem? I'm now in the middle of lava. I'm burning. It's painful. Who can save me? The money can't save me. My friends can't save me. My cousin can't save me. My wife can't save me. My brother can't save me. Who can save me? You cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because who else you gonna cry to? You chase the world, but the world won't stay. Every day passes, your soul decays. HaShem gave you life, but you waste the years, trading eternity for empty cheers. Wake up now, do Teshuvah today. Stop the sins, throw the lies away. Gehenna is real, the judgment is near. Only Torah says.
Yeah. The song is on Tshuva Music, the channel. Go to Tshuva Music on YouTube. It's a black logo with headphones. Got some copycats, as usual. Today. Stop the sins, throw the lies away. Gehenna is real, the judgment is near. Only Torah says. The truth is clear. Everybody's on. Live. No excuses, no more delay. Every moment, your soul must pay. HaShem is waiting, His mercy is wide, but the gates will close if you stay outside. Wake up now, do Teshuvah today. Stop the sins, throw the lies away. Gehenna is real, the judgment is near. Only Torah says. The truth is clear. The truth is clear. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Sunday night Shiur, Rabotai, Shiur, the Torah Foundation based on the Chovot Halevavot. Tonight's Shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema, Tzlacha Rabbah, and all of the Bechot ve'Yeshuot for Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jorah, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to learn with us, continue to support the organization, continue to become bigger and bigger in the world of Torah, Baruch Hashem, with each and every single shiur as they apply to their lives. Rabotai Karim, we have so much to learn, so much to do, and Bezrat Hashem will succeed. We'll succeed in doing so. I'm not sure if there's going to be a shiurim next week. I have another surgery, Baruch Hashem. But Bezrat Hashem will try to accomplish as much as we can this week. So with that being said, what moves you? What does it mean, what moves you? In the past week, but it was in a different lecture, the Stump the Rabbi, we talked about the unfortunate situation that we have in the world today, which is cash advance, a corrupt, predatory lending industry that is unfortunately very popular today. But don't think for a moment this is the only industry that there is corruption and there is terrible things. I mention it over and over again, number one, because I'm the only one that's talking about it, and number two, because it is such a big problem within the so-called frum community. When I went into the office of the merchant cash advance boys over there, and unfortunately, the vast majority of them look like they were wearing a kippah and tzitzit. And this is not the first time, or that I found out that it's mostly religious people. I've been saying this all along. So we talked about how the business is destroying people's lives, how it is a corrupt business, and quite frankly, merciless. There's just simply no mercy. Now, this stems from people confusing ambition with lust. They think that their lust is ambition. And we have to find out, where does this stem from? The Chovot Halevavot takes us into a deeper inspection of our hearts and how the heart not only could affect our behavior, but how the heart's behavior could affect how HaShem behaves with us. With guidance of the holy sages, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will learn a lot, because this is not just about the cash advance. This is about each and every single one of us that sometimes forgets that a little mercy goes far. So the Chovot Halevavot told us in the last segment about how, simply from reason, you could understand how there's an obligation to investigate your heart and see how you're serving Hashem, why you're even doing the mitzvot. Many people are following the laws of the Torah, whether it's Shabbat or it's the holidays or it's giving tzedakah. One of the things that the guys that I met at the cash advance business keep repeating to me over the years, every single one of them almost, is that how much they give in tzedakah, as if this makes everything kosher. Because you give charity, therefore you could destroy people's lives. But that's unfortunately not the case. There's no permission to do a mitzvah by way of sin. That's what our Torah says. But now the Chovot Halevavot is going to take it further. And he says as follows: it's clear to me that the duties of the limbs would not be complete without the accompanying will of the heart and soul to do them. Without the heart's strong desire to carry them out, if one could imagine that our hearts were not bound to embrace the desire the service of God, our limbs could not be bound to perform the commandments, which we're obligated to perform. For no act is complete if the soul does not desire it. Since clearly the Creator has obligated our limbs to perform the commandments, it would not then have been fitting for Him to ignore our souls and our hearts, which are our most noble parts, and not obligate them to serve Him according to their ability. For without heart and soul, the service of God is incomplete. We have therefore been assigned both outward and inward duties, so that our service be whole and complete, and both our outer life and our inner life be included in our devotion to the Creator may be exalted. What is the Chovot Halevavot saying to us? First, he told us that we have to understand that in order to serve Hashem, we have to do it both inwardly and outwardly. Outwardly is towards the limbs, which is, mitzvot that we do with our body, prayer, fasting, giving tzedakah, learning Torah, the sukkah, lulav, tzitzit, mezuzah. But inwardly is the heart. Last week we discussed the outward mitzvot. Why do you do the mitzvot? Why do you put on a kippah? Why do you put on tefillin? Why do you do any of the outward mitzvot? And of course, a person has to have a spiritual connection to all of the mitzvot. But furthermore, the Chovot Halevavot is telling us that when the sages told us that in Gemara Masechet Berachot, that when a person sees that he has problems, yefashvesh v'yemashmesh b'ma'asav. Yefashvesh meaning to see whether you're doing what Hashem said or not. V'yemashmesh to see what's the reason, what's the motivation behind why you're doing it. Are you doing it just because your parents told you to do it? Or are you doing it because you're trying to connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu? So now that we're digging deeper into the Yemashmesh, that we're looking deeper into the mitzvot, the cause, the reason, the rationale behind doing them, other than trying to fit into the community, other than trying to get into the yeshiva, other than trying to look like a Baal Tshuva or a frum person or a rabbi or whatever you are, we have to dig deeper. And he says that it's clear that the duties of the limbs that we talked about, the sukkah, the fasting, the charity, and everything else, would not be complete without an attachment of heart and soul to them. Why? Because without the heart's strong desire to carry them out, a person simply would not be able to achieve. In so many words, if your heart does not desire it, you will not succeed in it. A person can say, listen, I want to study today 5 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours. But right before he sits down to study, all of a sudden somebody turns on the game. All of a sudden somebody says, let's go out to eat. All of a sudden something is distracting him. And if his heart is not in desiring to learn the Torah, he's going to watch the game. He's going to have a drink with his friends. He's going to play one of his games or whatever it is that is steering him away. Yeah, but what about the fact that you said you wanted to study all week? You've said you wanted to study for 12 hours. Yeah, I wanted to. But the heart wasn't there. The heart wasn't there, Rabotai. In Sefer Shmuel, Shmuel Aleph, in chapter 1, verse number 24, we see the difference between the tzaddikim, our forefathers, and us, and how they had complete control over their heart. David HaMelech is chased by Shaul HaMelech with an enormous army of 3,000 soldiers. Soldiers that are literally looking forward to destroying their king's enemy, David, even though David was a tzaddik. But if their king, Shaul, says he's an enemy, then they're looking forward to killing him. David knows that the Torah promises that if he is innocent, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, I'll bring your enemy into your hands. And one of the times that Shaul chases after David, David does not try to fight back. He hides. In one of the places, the prophet tells us that Shaul's camp of soldiers parks and rests, and Shaul goes to relieve himself. And since Shaul was a righteous person that was making a mistake, it didn't negate his righteousness. He was very, very modest. So he went deep into a cave to go relieve himself. Inside that cave was where David was hiding with his soldiers, meaning that David had the opportunity of a lifetime to rid himself of his enemy. And according to the Torah, he was allowed to. Shaul was a rodef. He's trying to kill you. You're allowed to kill him first. But David's heart wanted to kill. But David's heart didn't want to kill. There's confusion here. Wait, Shaul is righteous. So how could it be? So what did David do? He says, let's see. Let's see how my heart feels after I just cut off his tzitzit. If it goes smoothly and I feel I can kill him, I'll kill him. David was a warrior, knew all types of martial arts, was an extraordinary warrior. He didn't need any help from any soldiers. David goes and cuts the tzitzit of Shaul. But his heart tells him, this is not it. You're allowed to kill him, but you don't need to. As Moshe Rabbeinu said to Am Yisrael, HaShem yilachem lachem v'atem techarishun. God will fight your wars, but you shall remain silent. David then uses this corner of tzitzit that he ripped out, that he cut off, to show Shaul as Shaul walks away from the cave. Look, I could have killed you. If I was really your enemy, I would have killed you. Shaul cries and realizes his mistake. The Midrash Rabbah says about Esav, that we learned about in last week's parasha, Parashat Toldot, that Esav was a Rasha. In section number 67, it tells us the difference between the Rasha and the Tzaddik. It says that Esav said in his heart, he spoke to his heart that he wanted to kill Yaakov. It also says that Yerovam ben Nevat, the Rasha, spoke in his heart to do evil. In Megillat Esther, it says that Haman spoke in his heart, meaning that the heart controlled the actions. On the other hand, the tzaddikim, like David HaMelech spoke to his heart, meaning that instead of the heart speaking to him, David told his heart what to feel. Hannah spoke to her heart. Daniel the prophet, or the Gemara in other places says he's not a prophet, he had Ruach HaKodesh, spoke to angels. Regardless of which one it is, Daniel spoke to his heart, meaning he told his heart what to feel, what to do. And the Chovot Halevavot is telling us here that if the heart does not desire, the limbs will not do. And if one could imagine that our hearts were not bound to embrace the desire and service of God, our limbs could not then be bound to perform the commandments which we're obligated to perform. For no act is complete if the soul does not desire it. So when a person says, listen, I want to do good. I want to do good. But yet they do bad. There's a problem. Means that you want to do good is just words. And the Midrash Rabbah, Parashat Toldot, says in the name of Rabbi Levi, there are 6 things, meaning 6 organs of the body that serve the person. 3 of them are under the person's control, and 3 of them are not under his control. The eye, the ear, and the nose are not under a person's control. For a person sees what he does not wish to see, he hears what he does not wish to hear, and he smells what he doesn't wish to smell. Everybody understands. You're walking in a street, you're trying to protect your eyes, but some woman that forgot to wear her clothes before she left the house is in your line of sight. Of course, you can control yourself and look away, look down. But that first look is not in your control. Or somebody works in an office, and since he did tshuva, he wants to not only protect his mouth and not say use vulgar language, but he also doesn't want to hear it. So he doesn't listen to all the songs and rap and all the garbage that he used to listen in the past. But he goes to work. And work, there's all types of people. There's Jewish people, not Jewish people. Religious people, not religious people. In the business world, they use foul language. Especially here in America. Every second word is another vulgar language. So he doesn't want to hear it. And one of my students asked me, what should I do? I said, nothing. This is business. You want to go into business, that's business. There's no way that you can stop the world from using vulgar language. You have to build yourself an immune system, a spiritual immune system of how to deal with it. Certainly, you cannot use it yourself. Certainly, you cannot select something, choose something, listen to something that you know for sure is going to have it. But to stop the world around you from doing it, it's not possible. You just have to build yourself an immune system. Because this, the Midrash says, is not one of those body parts that you can control. You'll hear things you don't want to hear. And needless to say, smell. You go into a store of perfume, of course you're going to smell all types of perfume. But even if you walk in the street, even if you go to your office, and you don't want to smell the perfume that some immodest woman is wearing, if she passes next to you, you're going to smell it, whether you want to or not. So the Midrash says that these are three things that are beyond your control. What you can control is how you react to it. But what is within your control? Says the Midrash, the mouth, the hand, and the foot are under a person's control. If a person wishes, his mouth can toil in Torah. But if he wishes so, it can engage in lashon hara, malicious speech. He can either use his mouth to teach Torah or to make fun of rabbis. He can use his mouth to say blessings for people or make fun of people. He can either give people compliments or say lashon hara. That's within his control. If the person wishes, his mouth can even disgrace and blaspheme God, says the Midrash. Yes, that same mouth that's supposed to learn Torah, teach Torah, give blessings, can be used to go against his Creator. This is a side note. The Gemara has an interesting story about Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir Balanes asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu, HaShem, how come you didn't give us two mouths? So one of them can eat, and the other one can learn Torah. Because you're supposed to say the words that you're reading and move your mouth, not just when you're praying, but also when you're studying Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Rabbi Meir, look how much lashon hara comes out of people's mouths when there's only one mouth. If I would have given them two mouths, the only thing that one of those mouths would be doing would be lashon hara, if not both of them. Meaning that just because you have the tool doesn't mean you're going to use it the right way. Similarly, the hand. The hand is under a person's control. For if he wishes, his hand can perform the commandments. He gives tzedakah. He could help somebody. He could do good things with the hand. But if he wishes, he could use his hand to steal. He could even use his hand to murder. And likewise the foot. We're under a person's foot. If he wishes, his foot can take him to theaters and circuses and all types of immodest and immoral places or places of leitzanut, of scoffers. But if he wishes, his foot can take him to the synagogue and to the Bet Midrash, the study halls. But at a time when a person merits, the Holy One, blessed is He, makes those limbs that are normally in one's control into limbs that are out of one's control. All of this I read for the purpose of the last one. What does it mean? What does it mean that if a person merits, then HaShem will use those limbs in such a way that He takes away control? Who wants Hashem to take away control of his hands, of his mouth, of his feet. The Chachamim explain, if a person merits, means not your limbs and your mouth and your legs, but your enemies. But your enemies, Rabotai. Because when the wicked seek to do harm to a person and use their limbs against that person that's loyal to Hashem, Hashem removes their control over their limbs, leaving them unable to harm the righteous person. And the Midrash gives a couple of examples from the Torah. When it came to the hand, Yerovam stretched out his hand upon the altar, saying, "Seize him." And his hand that he had stretched out towards the prophet became paralyzed. This is in Kings 1, chapter 13, verse 4. He wanted to kill the prophet that rebuked him. And Hashem showed him, the prophet is right, and you are the one that's wrong. When it came to the mouth, Yitzchak said he really got upset initially with Yaakov stealing the blessing. But instead of saying something against Yaakov, what came out of his mouth? Indeed, he shall be blessed. Even Yitzchak Avinu was treated in a way to protect Yaakov, his son. When it comes to the foot, Shlomo HaMelech says, "My child, do not walk in the way with them. Withhold your feet from their pathway, for their feet run to harm." See here, Rabotai, we see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take control over those limbs that are in essence usually under a person's control. And for those that are questioning, wait, how could the Midrash say that Yitzchak Avinu was in essence treated as if he's momentarily an enemy of his own son? Simple. Yitzchak thought that Esav was a tzaddik. He thought that Esav was really a righteous person, and only until Hashem unveiled his eyes and showed him who's the righteous one and forced him in essence to bless Yaakov, Yitzchak did not know. Now, just so you know, as a side note, certainly there's going to be people that either misunderstand or manipulate the Torah in ways that they say, wait, so maybe Hashem is the one that caused me to sin, or maybe Hashem is the one that did this or did that, and therefore I don't deserve punishment, like the heretics say. And the Midrash Rabbah says in section 67, part 4, in the name of Rabbi Chanina, anyone who says that the Holy One, blessed is He, is disregarding of sin, his innards shall be disregarded. Meaning he will forfeit his life. He will die a mita meshuna. Why? Because he's teaching people to sin, says the Eitz Yaakov. Rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses his mercy in a way that he delays the punishment. But ultimately, he collects his due for every single thing that a person does against Hashem. He will be punished. And even Yaakov Avinu, if the Midrash didn't say this, I wouldn't be allowed to say it. Even Yaakov Avinu got punished for making Esav cry. Where it says that Yaakov caused Esav to cry a single cry. It was a big cry. When Esav heard his father's words, he cried out an exceedingly great and bitter cry. And the Midrash proves the point of how exacting HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with reward and punishment? He says, yeah, I punished my son Yaakov. How do you punish your son Yaakov? He says, do you guys remember there's Purim? In Purim, there's Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther is a story where Am Yisrael nearly got annihilated by Haman HaRasha. Part of the reason of why the generation deserved the Midat Adin was because of what happened with Yaakov. He made Esav cry, even though he did what his mom, the prophet, the Tzaddikah, told him to do. Still, that suffering still warranted that decree. And the Midrash says in Shushan, the capital of the Persian Empire, it says, and Mordechai learned all that had been done, and he cried a loud and bitter cry. This is in Megillat Esther chapter 4, verse number 1. Meaning that just like you made Esav cry, I'll make your children cry many years later. So from here, we see, Rabotai Karim, how exacting a Kadosh Baruch Hu is. So what does that have to do with taking over the limbs of a person? When the Chovot Halevavot told us that if the heart is not there, the limbs won't follow. That also means that if somebody's limbs are doing something, that means the heart desires it. It doesn't matter what you say. So if you're doing dishonest business, if you are bad to people, you're bad to your family, you're bad to your wife, you're bad to your husband, whatever you're doing, that means there is some type of deformity within your heart. Now, why would somebody care so much about that, aside from not wanting to be evil? Because there's a loss. There's a great loss for being wicked. Years ago, there was an extraordinary Chacham, one of the Gdolei Ador, who went through the Holocaust in a way that the story is unbelievable. Let's just say that. If it wasn't one of the Gdolei Ador saying the story, it'd be hard to believe. Because the Gemara says that if a person cheats, if a person lies, if a person does anything bad to anybody else, they'll pay for it. But furthermore, if a person is righteous, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect him. In fact, the Zohar HaKadosh says in Bereshit, page number 23, that when a person deserves a harsh punishment due to his sins, he made some type of sin, and therefore HaShem needs to punish him. But because HaShem has so much mercy on a person, he sends him a poor person to knock on his door, to give him a chance to earn mercy. When Rav Chaim Kreiswirth was in the Holocaust, one of the most vicious things that the Nazis, Yimach Shimam, did is they'll make the Jewish people dig holes in the ground as their own grave, and then they would kill them. And one of those times, they had a group of people. Among them was the young Bachur, Rav Chaim Kreiswirth, digging a hole. And each time after they all finished digging the holes, the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, shot one after the other. And before they got to Rav Chaim prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, prayed to the trait of mercy, and said, Ribono Shel Olam, remember what I did for that blind boy in the yeshiva, and let me use that merit in this world so I can live. And suddenly, when the Nazi, evil, cold-blooded murderer gets to Rav Chaim, as he's pointing the gun at him, he looks at him. And doesn't shoot. He says, you pretend to fall in the hole, and I'll shoot into the air, and then you run away. And that's exactly what happened. Mamash, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu took over this German murderer's entire body for the sake of the Tzaddik. But what did he do for the blind boy? Rav Chaim explains that when he was in yeshiva, there was a blind bachur. And when this boy came to the yeshiva, that first night, it was late at night. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. There was no more beds. And the kid couldn't see where to go. All the other boys are sleeping in their bed. And he sees this poor boy walking around, not knowing where to go. Can't see. Rav Chaim says, I brought him to my bed, and he slept on my mattress. He slept on my bed, and I slept on the floor. And every day, whenever he needed something, he would call me to take him to the bathroom, to take him to the Bet Midrash to learn. Every day. How much time did Rav Chaim spend on helping this poor man, this poor boy? I don't know. Every day, 5 times a day, 10 times a day. But at the end of it all, who did more for who? Not even in the wildest nightmares did Chaim think that he's going to be in the Holocaust, that he's going to be digging his own grave. And certainly, he didn't realize that this mitzvah, this mercy for another Jew, is going to save his life. He ended up escaping, going to Antwerp, becoming the chief rabbi over there, becoming one of Gdolei Ador. He only died about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. From what? From HaKadosh Baruch Hu, using the mercy that he had on another person to benefit him. He was having mercy on the boy because it's a Jewish heart. How could I not have a mercy on somebody else? He didn't realize that there was a decree in Shemaim at that moment already, before he came to the world, that he was going to be in the Holocaust. And therefore the Zohar Kadosh says, because he was righteous, because he was doing good, I gave him an opportunity to get out of it. How? I sent him a poor man to knock on his door, to see if he takes advantage of the opportunity and save himself. Many times, Rabotai, people listen to the shiurim and they hear the general rebuke that goes on, but they don't know how to apply it to themselves. They don't know how to apply it to themselves. They think that if we're talking about being merciless in the cash advance business or other corrupt businesses, therefore this applies to those bad people. But the truth of the matter is, this applies everywhere. If a person has no mercy in his own house, then his children are going to learn that. Then his wife will suffer. The husband will suffer. Everyone that's involved will suffer. So much so that the Gemara says that a person has to exercise extreme caution not to verbally distress his wife. Because a woman was created in such a way that she is sensitive. And therefore she cries quickly and heaven speedily responds to her. Meaning, he could have, chas v'shalom, a car accident. He could have a loss of money. He could have major problems. Why? Not because he's a bad driver. Not because he's a bad businessman. But because he made his wife cry for no reason. The Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 62b, says a shocking story about one of the great tzaddikim of the generation. Rav Rechumi. Rav Rechumi was so devoted to the Torah that he only came home once a year, on Yom Kippur. And his wife, who agreed to this, who was willing to have her dear husband study Torah all year, and to see him only on Yom Kippur. But one day, he was so glued to the Torah that he forgot that it's time to go home. It's that one day of the year. And when his wife saw that he did not come home, she cried. And at that moment that the tear came out of her eyes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a cinder block from the ceiling and dropped it on him and he died. Some say that the ground itself opened up and he died. Either way, he died a horrible death. And the Gemara says this is because of this. Yeah, but he was righteous. He was studying Torah. Yes, but he made his wife cry unnecessarily. Another story of a tzaddik, told by one of the Chachamim in Israel, the chief rabbi of Elad, Rav Mordechai Malka, who brings us up, another story from the Gemara. Story of one of the fathers of Mashiach, Boaz. Everybody knows the story of Boaz and Ruth. From there it comes David HaMelech. But Ruth was the second wife of Boaz. She was the second wife of Boaz, and his first wife, he had 60 children. 30 boys, 30 girls. But Manoach didn't have any kids. And therefore Boaz thought that if I invite him to the weddings, he's going to feel bad because he doesn't have any kids. He's going to have to give me gifts. And I don't have to give him any gifts. He has no kids. So he thought for his benefit, I'm not going to invite him to any of the weddings, 60 weddings. He was trying to do something right. But Manoach took it to heart. Why doesn't Boaz invite me? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is exact with the tzaddikim to such an extent that Boaz suffered seeing all 60 of his children die during his lifetime. For what? For not inviting Manoach to the weddings. This is in the Gemara Masechet Bava Batra, page 91a. Meaning, Rabotai, sometimes a person can misplace their mercy. Sometimes a person can forget it. Sometimes a person can make a mistake. And if HaShem is exacting with the tzaddikim, needless to say, what about us? A person can think, well, okay, fine, weddings, I don't have any kids, or I'll invite everybody. My wife, I'll try to be nicer. How does it apply to every day? The Zohar Kadosh says that and the Gemara in Masechet Berachot also says it. One of the great things that a person can do is go to Shul, be the first one of the minyan. One of the worst things one can do is be the last one, is be the first one to leave. Don't run away. But what about the last few people? If you're the last one in Shul, it's a great merit. But what about in a situation where there's only two people? And both of them came to Shul together. If two people came to Shul together, and one finished praying before the other, the Gemara in Masechet Berachot, page 5a, says that if one of them leaves and doesn't wait for his friend, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rejects all of his prayers. You had no compassion for your comrade. You didn't wait for him. So I'm not going to have compassion for you. Meaning, this is not just about the tzaddikim. This is not just about the people that are mentioned in the Torah and the Tanakh. This is every single day. Every single day, Rabotai Karim, it affects us. A person that forgets to have mercy is going to have a very, very difficult life. Why? Not only is that special protection that Rav Chaim Kreiswirth got not going to happen to them, but a Jewish heart without mercy is going to make mistakes that can bring judgment on them. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah says in Shaarei Tshuva, in the third gate, section number 36, that a person has to remove all cruelty out of his heart. All cruelty has to be removed from your heart. So when Rabbeinu Yonah says that the body doesn't work unless the heart is behind it, and your body is working, doing bad things, that means that the heart is following it. That means you have not removed the cruelty from your heart. If you are cheating in your business, if you're cheating on your spouse, if you're simply a disastrous type of human being to certain people, but not all the time, that means there's still cruelty within your heart. If your wife cries every week because of you, if your children are constantly crying because you are simply a mean father, mean mother, not because you're rebuking them because you're trying to do chinuch and help them and educate them, but rather because you're simply mean, then guess what? There's cruelty in your heart. If your customers are one-time customers because you're a cruel person and you hurt all of your customers, that means there's cruelty in your heart. If you want to say, yes, but I'm a good husband, I'm a good wife, I'm a good father, I'm a good mother. It's just that in business, I'm making so much money, I can't make that much money anywhere else. Yes, but you're cruel to people. Your customers are suffering. You're ruining their lives. Sadder, but I'll fix it by giving tzedakah. No, you're not understanding. Having a cruel heart brings an enormous price with it. And the same Rabbeinu Yonah says in the second gate, in section number 18, know that the soul of the wicked, the soul whose desire is only for the cravings of the body during its lifetime, a desire divorced from the divine service, and thus a soul separated from its roots, when it dies, it descends to the earth, to the place of its desire. You desired materialism, Hashem brings you back to materialism. Taking on the quality of dust, Hashem Yishmo, which descends and does not rise. Nonetheless, it is brought to heaven to be tried and judged, and that it may view how it has exchanged heaven for Sheol, the way a stone ascends when thrown from a slingshot. It's talking about kafakela, meaning if you are in a business or simply living a lifestyle that is simply materialistic to the point where all you do is influenced by your addiction to material, expect kafakela. Why? Apparently, in Shemaim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, this is the puzzle piece that fits this board. After the souls ascend to heaven, it will naturally fall back to earth, just like the stone plummets back to earth when its thrust is spent, as the verse in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 25, verse 29 says, may the Lord's soul be bound to the bond of life with Hashem your God, and may he fling the soul of your enemies as one flings a stone from a slingshot. Our sages said concerning this in Kohelet Rabbah, both the souls of the righteous and the souls of the wicked ascend above and are judged there. The souls of the righteous, the tzaddikim, are judged as worthy and are secreted beneath the throne of glory, while the souls of the wicked descend once again, scattered to the earth, just as the verse says, may he fling the soul of your enemies. And that's why Shlomo HaMelech said in Mishle, chapter 11, verse 7, when an evil person dies, hope is lost, for there is no hope that the soul of the wicked will emerge from darkness to light. As it says concerning the wicked man's soul, in Tehillim 49:20, go to the generation of his ancestors, they will see no light for eternity. This also addresses the heretical statements of people that say that everyone gets the same punishment no matter what the crime is, 12 months. It's not the truth. It's not true. Now, how does a person start working on removing cruelty from their heart? Cruelty that they see leads them to making people cry. Cruelty that leads them to being corrupt in their business. Cruelty that leads them to going against their Creator and being ungrateful. He gave you 7 days a week and commands you to observe Shabbat, and you simply ignore. You disregard. He tells you to eat, as long as it's kosher. You dafka eat non-kosher. He tells you you have one spouse, be loyal to that spouse. You cheat anyway. He tells you protect your eyes from immorality, from immodesty. You dafka look anyway. The Avot Rabbi Natan says as follows, in the name of Akavya ben Mehalel, anyone who contemplates the following 4 points will no longer sin. 1. From where does he come from? 2. To where is he going? 3. What he is destined to be. And 4. Who his judges. Where he comes from, a place of darkness, his mother's womb. Where he's going, to a place of darkness and gloom, to the grave. Eventually everybody dies. What is he destined to be? Dust, worm, and maggots. And who's the judge? The one who reigns over kings, the Holy One, blessed is he. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar adds to this by saying as follows. A person can think that they're a big shot because they made a lot of money, because people listen to them, because they're popular, because they have likes, and therefore they'll say, listen, if it wasn't Hashem's will, what I'm doing, then I wouldn't be successful. Wrong. That's just arrogance telling you that. That's just the Satan telling you that. And that arrogance will make you pay even further. And Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, I'll give you an analogy about your body. What is it like? What is it comparable to? Imagine there's a king. And the king builds a huge palace. And he puts many servants in the palace. Of course, he wants to show off this palace to all of the other kings, to all of the other people. Such a majestic, beautiful place. But right before everybody shows up, a sewage pipe blows up right at the gate of the palace, pouring out all of the filth of the entire city right at the entrance. And of course, everybody there that comes and sees this says, well, it's beautiful, but it smells. It's disgusting. It would be so much better if the sewage pipe wouldn't pass through it. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, a person is just like this. The reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu made him this way is that if even now that the foul spring of waste pours through from his innards, he still acts arrogantly towards other people, then if he would have been made to produce an aromatic, meaning if he's still arrogant despite the fact that he has in essence a sewage pipe in his body, everything that he eats comes out filthy, then imagine if HaShem would have created that everything that comes out of the body would have smelled good. In so many words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us in this way in order to remind us not to be arrogant, not to be cruel, not to think that we are above the law, not to think that the world needs to comply with our will no matter what our will is. And the Chovot Halevavot is trying to guide us into different chambers of our heart to let us know that yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu obligated our limbs to perform the commandments. And because he obligated our limbs, from there we learned that he also obligated our hearts. Because if we do the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu without thinking about it, then even the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Meaning you cannot go up to Shamayim and say, well, I didn't know. There's no such thing that you didn't know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you a mind. He gave you a mind. You use that mind to study law, study architecture, study mathematics, study science, study all types of things. Why didn't you study while you were in this world? No, but I went to Shul. Did Hashem say that you finish all of the obligations then by just going to pray? Are you praying because God needs you to pray? Or are you praying because you need something from God? If you think God needs you, then why pray at all? But if you're praying to God because you know you need Him, then how come you didn't think about what did He command you? You keep asking for stuff. Obviously, if He's in charge of everything you need to comply with what He commanded you. Why didn't you think about that? When He said in the 10 Commandments, don't steal, why did you think you're allowed to steal? When He said in the 10 Commandments, don't commit adultery, why did you commit adultery? So a person cannot say that, no, everything's okay. If God didn't want me to do this, then He would have stopped it. No, He gives you free choice. You could do whatever you want. You're just going to have to pay the bill. You're going to have to pay the bill. And this is all common sense. That's not so common. If you're already religious, you study Gemara, you study Chumash, you put a kippah on, you act modest, and yet you allow yourself to be in a business or in a lifestyle that is constantly hurting other people. That means that you have turned your heart into a heart of stone. So stories like of Kreiswirth, where HaShem literally manipulated somebody's body just for the sake of saving the Tzaddik, don't expect that on yourself. If there's a sickness, don't even bother praying for a cure. If the judgment starts to come, don't think that a Kadosh Baruch Hu will say, no, you know what? We'll make a miracle for this guy. We'll make a miracle for her. No, you ruined it. You were merciless on other people. Why would you expect Hashem to be merciful on you? Without a heart and soul, the service of Hashem is incomplete. And that's why the Chovot Halevavot says to us, everyone understands that we have to serve Hashem outwardly. By giving, by doing the Mitzvot, Sukkot, and everything else. And from that, we should arrive at a very clear conclusion that our innards also require to be part of that service. We can't just claim ignorance. We can't just say, no, somebody said it's okay. Just like before you fulfilled any of the mitzvot, you found out about them. Can I just buy any etrog, or it has to be a specific type of etrog? Can I buy any type of tefillin, or does it have to fit a specific type of halacha? Can I build my sukkah anywhere, or it has to fit certain laws? Every one of the laws that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us requires study, requires thought process, requires following a set of rules. So if all of that is required for the outward service of Hashem, then needless to say, we have to investigate our hearts and see where our heart lies. Literally, where it's lying to us. Rabotai Karim, a person can't just go through this world thinking that they're a, perfect, in every way, and only the obvious things are things they need to fix. You have to look, you have to think. What kind of fruits are my actions producing? In business, in marriage, in parenting, in everything. What kind of fruits are coming out of me? Are they all filthy like the sewage pipe that blew up in front of the palace? Or are there some good things? My business is helping people. My marriage makes my spouse happy. My parenting is working because my kids are all righteous. Look at the fruits, and you'll find out what kind of tree came from. And needless to say, look at the quality of the fruits, and you'll know what kind of roots that tree had. This, Rabotai Karim, is all common sense that's uncommon. Because from our holy Torah, that very, very few people realize, if it's not for the Torah, we would be worse than animals. This, Rabotai Karim, is what we can learn today. I think it's more than enough for each and every single person to investigate their life, every part of it. Your marriage, your work, your parenting, if you're a child and you have parents, are you making your parents constantly happy, or are you making them sad all the time? If you're making your mom and dad cry all the time, then you're not a good kid. You have to fix it. You have to fix it. Why? Because if you don't fix it, the damage you cause others, you're going to bring on yourself. And the damage when it comes to you, it's much worse. It's good to be good. Not because of just helping other people by the good that you do. But rather also because when you do good in accordance to HaShem, you get good from HaShem. And no one can hurt you, even if they want to. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu fights your wars for you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu fights your wars for you. May it be His will that each and every single person that watches this, shares this with countless people. So at least every single person has 10, 20, 30 people that could potentially do tshuva. Not just for the obvious mitzvot, but even for the things that are often ignored and simply thought that they're not relevant. This is what distinguishes us from everyone else. A Jew has signs. One of them is a merciful heart. If you're finding yourself without a merciful heart, then you left your Judaism at the door. We can't be like the idol worshippers that call themselves the religion of mercy while they murder people for 2,000 years just for not being the same religion they are. Am Yisrael has to be really, truly the nation of mercy. If we simply ignore everything but our own lust, but our own will, we're hurting each other and we're hurting ourselves. I'll give you another couple of stories that really put things in perspective. There was a Bachur that came to Rabbi Ephraim, wanted to learn. He was really, really bright. Rabbi Ephraim tested him on the whole Shas. We had a whole program with him, and he told him, listen, I want you to really help my brother. What happened with your brother? He says, my brother is a gaon, he's a genius, but something happened to him in the yeshiva that he left everything. He's still religious, but he could still be something very special. And this is the story. Not only the story, but also showing you how a tzaddik is a tzaddik. This young boy was doing really well in yeshiva. He was a good learner, good midot, righteous person. And of course, some people are not so righteous. Some people are jealous. And one of the other kids in the school was very jealous of him. So he decided to spread a false rumor about him. When this rumor got to the rabbis, it was a horrible rumor. And the rabbis made a mistake without investigating things, and they told him you have to leave the yeshiva. And this practically broke the boy. He was such a good learner. He was doing so well. Why do they believe this? Well, they made a mistake. Years passed. This young man continued learning a little bit, but not in the same way. Learned how to be a shochet, learned how to be a sofer, but stopped learning like he used to. Years passed. And one day, his brother is sitting in the bus stop, and he hears the guy that's next to him, waiting for the bus, on the phone. He's talking to somebody. And he's really, really upset. He's telling him, listen, I've been married for a few years. Nothing. The doctor is saying, my wife can't have kids, I can't have kids. They don't really know, but they're saying it's just not happening. And I thought about it, and I think it's because I spread a false rumor about one of the kids in yeshiva years ago. And because I did that to him, HaShem is punishing me. And he says the boy's name. As soon as he says the boy's name, the brother hears this. And rightly so, he says to the guy, you know that kid that you spread a false rumor on? That's my brother. He goes, no, really? Yeah, that's my brother. He goes, please, I'm trying to reach him. I'm trying to find him. I don't know where he is. Can you please call him right now? I want to say I'm sorry. He calls his brother, and his brother's Tzaddik. He forgives him. A year later, he has a kid. Now, he didn't have to forgive him, all the damage that he caused him, but I can assure you, his mercy on someone that tried to destroy his life will end up bringing endless fruits of joy to him. Certainly, the guy benefited now. He has a kid, Baruch HaShem. He got forgiveness. But that merciful heart, you can't just develop it overnight. You have to work on it every day to see how your actions are affecting everybody. How your actions are affecting everybody. A person that has no mercy will also be ungrateful. A person that has no mercy will have a terrible marriage. A person that has no mercy will have terrible relationships with their children. A person that has no mercy will end up losing their olam haba. Because if you don't have mercy, you're the opposite of the attributes of HaShem. Rabotai Karim, mercy sounds good. And many people think they have it. If you want to check whether you have it or not, check the fruits that you produce. From your business, from your marriage, from your parenting, from all the things that you're involved in. Do they look good? Do they look healthy? Or is it just benefiting you? If it's only a one-side benefit, you'll see that there's some lack of mercy somewhere. Fix it before it's too late. Thank you very much for learning with me. HaShem bless each and every single one of you to apply this to your lives, to become more compassionate, to become more merciful, and Be'ezrat Hashem to become better servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anyone that wants to support can donate on our website, Be'ezratHashem.org or bhtorah.org. And certainly, those among you that ask a lot of questions or have a lot of questions, watch the lectures, but you could also get the AI Rabbi app that we have, AIRabbi.org or AI Rabbi on the App Store. And all of the questions, day-to-day life, how the Torah applies it, how the Torah clarifies it, all of it is there. And mamash, it's unbelievable. The types of answers that people get for questions that, honestly, I didn't even know existed. They send me some of their questions and their answers, and it's brilliant. AIRabbi.org. It's cheap, it's affordable, and it's certainly very resourceful to have. Call to B'chabad Chaim. Be'ezrat Hashem will study again later this week.
I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. We did it. AI Rabbi is here. It's an AI model that is based on kosher Torah sources, 30 different languages that are available to you. So if you want to ask it in Spanish, in Chinese, Portuguese, whatever you want to do, it's available for you. Can you tell me about Rabbi Akiva? So it's time-stamped to the shiur. You press this green button, AI Rabbi on your WhatsApp. You'll have the ability to ask questions at will. You'll be provided sources, and most importantly, you'll be able to know the truth and be able to rely on the sources.